Something strange just happened in the Middle East. Missiles were launched, sirens screamed across cities, and then suddenly, silence. No speeches, no press conferences, no clear response. And one question started spreading everywhere. Where is Benjamin Netanyahu? In the hours after Iran fired its latest barrage toward Israel, people expected immediate reactions. Normally, leaders appear on television, issue statements, or rally the public. But this time, the man who usually dominates every headline seemed to disappear. For decades, Benjamin Netanyahu has been known for reacting quickly during crises. Cameras appear, microphones gather, and strong statements follow within minutes. But after this latest escalation, the silence surrounding him became its own story. People began searching online, asking if something had happened behind the scenes. Was he in a secure bunker planning the next move? Was there a secret diplomatic conversation happening somewhere far away from cameras? Before we go deeper into this mystery, take a second to subscribe to WorldScope News so you never miss the global stories shaping our world. If you're interested in geopolitics, hidden power moves, and stories that traditional headlines sometimes miss, you're in the right place. Because the truth is, this situation did not start with the missiles. It started days earlier with tension building quietly across the region. Military analysts had already noticed unusual troop movements. Radar activity increased. Intelligence chatter suggested that something big might be coming. Then suddenly it happened. Iran launched a wave of projectiles toward Israel, triggering alarms across multiple cities. Air defense systems activated immediately, intercepting most of the incoming threats. Residents rushed into shelters as sirens echoed through the night. For many people living there, this was another terrifying reminder that conflict in the region can erupt in seconds. But something about this attack felt different. Analysts quickly noticed the scale was limited compared to what Iran is capable of launching. It was almost as if the strike was meant to send a message rather than cause maximum destruction. That raised another question. Who was the message really for? Some experts believed Iran was signaling strength without triggering a full-scale war. Others suspected it was part of a larger psychological strategy unfolding behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Israel's military confirmed that most of the threats had been intercepted. Damage reports remained limited, which suggested the defense systems performed effectively once again. But despite that, the atmosphere remained tense. People expected retaliation. History shows that when attacks happen, responses usually follow. Yet hours passed, and then even more hours, and the expected dramatic response did not immediately appear. That's when attention shifted toward the Israeli leadership. Journalists started asking the same question repeatedly. Where is Netanyahu? Normally, during moments like this, Netanyahu addresses the nation quickly. He often speaks with strong language, warning enemies and reassuring citizens. But this time, television networks kept waiting for a statement that didn't come. Cameras stayed ready, reporters stood outside government buildings, and still nothing happened. The absence created a vacuum. And in politics, a vacuum never stays empty for long. Speculation began spreading across social media and international news circles. Some suggested that Netanyahu was in emergency security meetings with military leaders. Others wondered if diplomatic pressure from global allies was influencing Israel's next move. Because one wrong step right now could ignite a much larger regional war. The United States quickly began monitoring the situation closely. Washington has long maintained strong ties with Israel, especially during moments of military tension. Behind closed doors, discussions were likely happening about escalation risks. Nobody wanted the situation to spiral out of control. Meanwhile, Iran also remained unusually quiet after the strike. There were no dramatic speeches claiming victory or threatening further attacks. That silence was just as puzzling as Netanyahu's disappearance from public view. Two rivals had suddenly entered a moment of strategic quiet. And when powerful countries go silent during conflict, it often means something serious is unfolding behind the curtain. Military experts started analyzing possible scenarios. One theory suggested that both sides were carefully calculating their next move. Another possibility involved international diplomacy. Sometimes leaders avoid public statements while negotiations quietly take place through intermediaries. Countries in the region began preparing for different outcomes. Air defenses stayed alert, and intelligence networks intensified monitoring activities. Markets also reacted nervously. Energy prices briefly fluctuated as investors feared the conflict might disrupt supply routes. Yet, as the hours stretched into an entire day, the biggest mystery remained the same. Why hadn't Netanyahu appeared yet? His political career has been defined by strong messaging during crises. Supporters expect decisive words, and critics closely watch every move. But silence, in this case, might have been intentional. Some strategists believe silence can sometimes be more powerful than immediate action. By not responding publicly right away, a leader may create uncertainty for opponents. That uncertainty can shift the psychological balance in a conflict. Still, the public rarely enjoys uncertainty during dangerous moments. Citizens want reassurance, clarity, and leadership. Inside Israel, many people continued going about daily life while keeping an eye on news updates. Schools, businesses, and transportation systems stayed operational. At the same time, security forces remained on heightened alert. Military bases increased readiness in case further attacks followed. Meanwhile, international observers started asking another deeper question. Was this attack part of a much larger geopolitical shift? The Middle East has always been complex, with alliances, rivalries, and hidden negotiations shaping every major event. Iran and Israel have been locked in a shadow conflict for years. Cyber operations, intelligence missions, and indirect confrontations happen far from public view. But when missiles fly openly, it signals that tensions may be entering a new phase, and every phase carries unpredictable consequences. Some analysts pointed out that Iran's strike appeared carefully measured. It showed capability without pushing the situation into full war territory. That kind of calibrated action often indicates strategic messaging rather than uncontrolled escalation. Meanwhile, Israeli defense systems once again demonstrated their technological strength. Intercepting incoming threats has become a key part of national security strategy. Yet technology alone cannot resolve geopolitical rivalries. Eventually, decisions must come from political leadership. And that brings the focus back to Netanyahu. Was he delaying a response for strategic reasons? Some insiders suggested that Israel's leadership was evaluating several response options simultaneously. Each option carried different risks. A strong military retaliation could satisfy domestic pressure but might trigger wider conflict. A restrained response might prevent escalation but appear weak to adversaries. These decisions are rarely simple. Leaders must weigh military realities, diplomatic consequences, and public expectations all at once. Meanwhile, international governments quietly urged caution. Many countries feared that a rapid cycle of retaliation could destabilize the entire region. Global leaders know that conflicts in the Middle East rarely stay contained for long. Energy markets, trade routes, and security alliances can all be affected. Behind diplomatic doors, conversations likely intensified. Messages may have been delivered through multiple channels. Sometimes those channels include allies, neutral states, or even secret intermediaries. The goal is always the same: prevent escalation before it becomes unstoppable. Back on the ground, ordinary people continued living under uncertainty. Families checked emergency apps. News alerts popped up every few minutes. But despite the tension, something unusual remained consistent: the quiet. No new missile launches, no immediate retaliation announcements. Just a long pause that left the world wondering what would happen next. Strategic pauses can be extremely powerful moments in international politics. They allow leaders to think several moves ahead. Instead of reacting emotionally, they can shape the narrative carefully. Timing, after all, can change everything. If Israel responds too quickly, the situation might spiral. If it waits too long, the perception of strength could weaken. That delicate balance might explain why Netanyahu stayed away from cameras longer than expected. Political insiders understand that some of the most important decisions are made in rooms the public never sees. Generals present intelligence briefings. Advisors debate possible consequences. Every scenario is examined carefully. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies monitor signals from multiple countries. Satellites, radar networks, and surveillance systems all collect information. Each piece of data helps build a clearer picture of what might come next. As analysts studied Iran's launch patterns, they noticed something interesting. The strike appeared designed to demonstrate reach rather than maximum damage. That design might indicate strategic restraint from Tehran as well. In geopolitical conflicts, messages are sometimes delivered through actions rather than words. Missiles can send signals, just as speeches do, and silence afterward can be part of that message. For observers watching from outside the region, the situation felt like the calm between waves. Nobody knew whether the next development would bring escalation or de-escalation. One thing was certain, though: the world was paying attention. Every hour without a statement from Netanyahu made the mystery even bigger. Political commentators began discussing whether the silence itself was a tactic. Some suggested it allowed Israel's military to operate quietly without revealing plans. Others believed it gave diplomatic efforts time to work. Either way, the absence of immediate headlines did not mean nothing was happening. In fact, the quiet moments in geopolitics are often when the most important moves occur. Intelligence officers exchange messages, negotiators communicate through back channels, and leaders decide how history might remember their next decision. For viewers following this story closely, it raises an important question. Is silence a sign of restraint or preparation? Because history shows that sometimes the biggest responses come after the longest pauses. If you've made it this far, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the silence was strategic, or do you believe something bigger was happening behind closed doors? Your perspective helps shape the conversation here on WorldScope News. And if you think more people should understand what's unfolding in global politics, share this video with someone who follows international affairs. because understanding these events is the first step toward understanding how the world really works. For now, the question still hangs in the air. Iran fired. The region held its breath. And for a moment that captured the attention of the entire world, everything went silent.